Look, I can't dig into the best bets for the Masters without consulting golf bettor extraordinaire and senior editor at SI.com, and of course, the host of the Bacon Bets podcast. It is Iain MacMillan. Iain, thank you so much for hopping on here to talk a little bit of the Masters.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's this stretch is one of the best stretches in the sports betting calendar, probably the best stretch outside of the start of the NFL season. And yeah, the Masters is kind of the cap of that, the finale of that stretch. So I'm excited. Let's talk about it.
I do have a follow-up about that very topic, but first, Iain, I know you saw the Masters dinner menu for 2025, which is, of course, the responsibility of the previous champion, so Scottie Scheffler, very much like his previous dinner menu. But, you know, you got some sliders, you got some shrimp, you got some Texas-style chili, choice of ribeye or redfish for your main. Good enough menu, no real complaints. But Mac, my question is this. What are you picking for your Masters dinner menu? What could we expect if you ever did win the Masters?
I'm glad you asked that because unfortunately, we're never going to see a Masters winner from Nova Scotia. I mean, maybe eventually, if there's 1,000 years and the Masters still going on, maybe one Nova Scotian will win the Masters, but let's maybe get one on the PGA Tour first. But if I were to win it, my Masters menu, and it wouldn't even be stuff that I like because I'm not really a big seafood guy, but overall, I think people would love a Nova Scotia Masters menu. So this is what I got. Appetizers, we got shrimp, we got garlic fingers, we got mussels. First course, we got poutine. Your main course is going to be a choice between donair or lobster, and then dessert is Nova Scotia blueberry grunt. How about that for a menu? We got some Canadian food, we got some East Coast food, some lobster, which Nova Scotia is famous for, donair, garlic fingers, and then a nice blueberry grunt for dessert.
I love it. I don't discriminate too much when it comes to food. Like I'm a pretty solid eater across the board. I believe Oddshark's very own Scott Hastings expected you to just do like an assorted arrangement of hot dogs or something to that extent. So it's good to see some versatility from your menu. I love it.
Yeah, now if it was food that I like, then it would look very differently. But one of my favorite things about the Masters menu, and it's why I like when international people win it, because most people make their menu based on where they're from. So it's very, it's very cool when John Rahm won it and there's a bunch of Spanish food, and Hideki Matsuyama won it, there's a bunch of Japanese food. So I think I would owe Nova Scotia a tip of the cap and make my Masters menu Nova Scotian food. And when you lay it out like that, that's a pretty good menu. I think people would like that.
I love it. 10 out of 10. Absolute 10 out of 10. You talked about how, significant this event, the Masters tournament is for you. Where does it actually rank in terms of betting events for you? Surely to God, it's in like the top 3 or 4.
So I have a little bit of a controversial opinion about this. I love the Masters. As a betting event, it's still top 10. It's probably maybe number 5, number 6. But it's my number 1 overall sports event. So because I love the Masters so much as just being the Masters without betting on it, it takes the betting on it. Like probably my favorite betting events are how betting elevates it, but the Masters is already my favorite event. So betting on it could only make it so much better. But yeah, it is still borderline top 5. I still think you got to put NFL Week 1, March Madness, NHL playoffs in front of the Masters in terms of betting. But overall, if you even take betting out of it, because I could not place a single bet and I would watch every second of the Masters. That wouldn't be the case, I don't know, for basically any other sport. So love the Masters. I do love betting on it. It probably sneaks into my top 5.
Fair point. Absolutely fair point there. But talk to me about handicapping the Masters and Augusta. What are some of the skill sets that you are looking for in a golfer before backing them at the sportsbook? Is there an ideal player profile you're looking for?
Yeah, and it's pretty straightforward for the Masters. Long shots don't win at the Masters for the most part. The last big long shot to win was, I think, Charles Schwartzel in 2011. Even Danny Willett, I know when he, won because Jordan Spieth collapsed, not necessarily a recognizable name, but he was still 50-1. So he wasn't a super long shot guy to win. You basically just need to look at golfers who have played extremely good golf so far this year heading into the Masters. I know that sounds simple. I know that sounds a little too straightforward, but it's true. There's a stat that I found. 10 of the last 12 Masters winners were at 1.7 strokes gained tee to green or better in the 3 months leading into the Masters. The only two who didn't, Patrick Reed in 2018 and Hideki Matsuyama in 2021. There is something we can actually take away from those two golfers, which I do think is an important metric when finding a Masters winner, is strokes gained around the green, chipping. Even Hideki Matsuyama, famously not a good putter, but he was an extremely underrated chipper of the golf ball, and his chipping was unbelievable when he won in 2021. So if you're going to go outside the obvious names at the top in terms of the strokes gained metric, look for someone who can chip, because you're going to miss greens, and it's hard to get up and down around these greens. So you need to find some good chippers like Patrick Reed in 2018, like Hideki Matsuyama in 2021.
So Rory McIlroy, I mean, he's second on the odds board at plus 650. It's him and Scotty at the top, and then a bit of a dip. But it's been the one for Rory that's gotten away. The only major he hasn't won. He's got a second place finish here a few years ago, bookended by missing the cut, of course. T22 last year. How badly does this guy need a green jacket?
That's a great question. I think he personally needs it. I think he may not need it extreme. I mean, Rory McIlroy might be, this is crazy to say, but he might be one of the more underrated golfers of all time. And I say that because he came in right after Tiger Woods, or at the back end of Tiger Woods' career. So everyone's trying to compare him to Tiger Woods, but that's impossible. You can't compare anyone to Tiger Woods. Rory McIlroy has been the best, most consistent golfer over the past 15 years, and it's not even close. I do think, obviously, he wants this green jacket quite a bit, and I think that actually hurts him at these events, especially in past years, because sometimes when you want something so bad, you get inside your head a little bit. But Rory McIlroy is a guy, I'll tell you right now, a guy I'm not going to bet on, because if he wins, I'll be just as happy as if I did have money on him, because I like Rory. I want him to win a green jacket, and I do think the style of golf he's been playing in 2025 leading into the Masters does fit well for Augusta. Previously, he's been very robotic in how he plays almost, and you have to have a little bit of an artistic flair to win at Augusta. You have to be able to shape shots. You have to be a little bit creative. And McIlroy the past handful of years wasn't playing that way, but he is playing that way this season. So does he need it personally? He probably thinks he does. Am I going to judge him less if he doesn't? A little bit, but not a lot.
Let's talk about another sort of marquee name real quick. As I look at the board, Justin Thomas is plus 2,000. Here's a guy that hasn't won since the PGA in that playoff against Zalatoris 3 years ago. He melted away at the Valspar recently as Hovland rallied to pass him on Sunday. Do you trust a guy like JT at this point enough to back him?
I don't think so, but he does check every single box that you want. He's a great iron player. He's been playing extremely good golf so far this season, despite not getting a win. He has a pretty solid history at Augusta, although he has missed the cut the past 2 years, but previous to that, pretty solid history at Augusta. But Augusta is not a course that I want to necessarily back a guy to break a drought, to get his first win in a number of years. For that reason, no, but also if Justin Thomas wins the Masters, I will not be shocked. And I am going to be actually hypocritical based on my top pick, which I'm going to give out here in a little bit. But no, if he would have won the Valspar, I probably would be betting on Justin Thomas to win the Masters. But I think it's just such a hard course and hard event to win. And then add in the fact you have the pressure of not winning over the past number of years. It's just, it's a big hurdle to overcome.
And we'll get to your picks here momentarily, but before that, talk to me maybe about some sleeper picks, maybe even for folks that are out there in golf drafts or what have you. Who do you like potentially that is maybe flying a bit under the radar?
Yeah, sure. One of the things I look at, and I didn't bring this up earlier, but and I'm sure if you've bet on the Masters or watched a decent amount the past 10, 20 years, you've heard this, but lefties have always done extremely well at Augusta. It is a course that sets up well for left-handed golfers, and there's actually a pretty decent list of lefties teeing it up this year. Obviously, you have the past winners, Mike Weir, Phil Mickelson, and Bubba Watson, but there are some younger guys who could be worth a look too. Akshay Bhatia, who's one of the big young names breaking out on the scene. He's a lefty. Joe Highsmith won a couple weeks ago. He's a lefty. Brian Harmon obviously won the Open a couple years ago at like 120 to 1 odds. He's a lefty. But if I were to give a guy who's a little bit of a dark horse, I think this week at the Masters, Rob McIntyre, big shot Bobby Mack, a lefty Scotsman who has played at the Masters twice. He finished inside the top 20 both those times that he teed up the Masters. And he put together some solid results so far this season as well. A solo 9th at the Players' Championship. So he has the game. He has the recent form. He's going to be a little bit far down that odds list. So I like Bobby Mack, especially him being a lefty. And then another guy who I absolutely love. I found him at 160 to 1 on the odds list right now. Aaron Rai, who I call the double glove bandit. Wears 2 gloves. I personally wear 2 gloves as well. So I love that. He's a guy who's going to hit greens. He's not going to, drive the ball a mile, but he's going to hit greens in regulation. He can scramble a little bit. And sometimes that's enough, maybe not to win, but if you want a cheap DraftKings option or a DFS lineup, or if you're looking for a top 20 bet, something like that, Aaron Rai, Bobby Mack are some cheaper names. Akshay Bhatia, another one that I think would be worth a look. I actually want to say one last name. Previous winner of the event, Danny Willett, who I found at 430 to 1 odds. His game right now is fascinating because he's great at everything except his irons stink. Like one of the worst irons player right now, but he's leading the PGA Tour in strokes gained around the green, leading and scrambling, putting well, driving well. If he can figure out his irons like the week of the Masters, Danny Willett, a past winner and obviously past success, could be an interesting cheap option too.
Yeah, good shouts there. Akshay there at 55 to 1 as well. Love that guy. Let's get you out of here. Let's get into your picks here, iMac. We're recording this, before odds boards are fully fleshed out. So we're limited into some of the markets we can get into. But who are you backing in outright markets or top 5s or top 10s or anything that's available out there? What's caught your eye?
I got a list of 5 names. I'll rip through them. Actually, a 6th name as well. I'll rip through them here pretty quickly. Colin Morikawa, who I now have a rocky relationship with after my drama when I called him out for saying he doesn't know anything to the media, but I can't look past his numbers. I mentioned that stat earlier where of the previous 10 of last 12 Masters winners, 1.7 strokes gained tee to green or better in 3 months leading into the Masters. It's Morikawa who leads that right now, 2.6. So from a metric standpoint, he looks like to be a perfect fit this year, but he has that Justin Thomas issue where he hasn't won for a long time. Xander Schauffele, I'm going to bet on Xander every single year at the Masters. I've done it now for the past, it feels like 10 years. Maybe it hasn't been quite 10 years, although pretty close, maybe 8 years. Coming off an injury, but in his last start at the Valspar, he gained 2.86 true strokes per round with his approach game. So if he just figured something out with his irons after coming off that injury, I think he might be peaking at the right time. So I like both those guys outright. If you want a live golfer, Joaquin Niemann at 28 to 1. He's been playing unbelievable, has won a ton of events over on live. He's also shown some flashes at Augusta in the past. So I like him as an outright 28 to 1. And then if we're looking at the top 10, top 20 market, top 10, Russell Henley already won this season, won the Arnold Palmer Invitational, great irons player, T15 here in 2018, T11 in 2017. And then I already mentioned Bobby Mack. I'm going to bet Bobby Mack top 20. T12, T23 his last in his 2 Master appearances. I think I said earlier he finished in the top 20 both times. T23 close enough, but T12 was the other. And then one of my favorite markets to bet on the Masters every year, Ninja, the low amateur. And I have done a great job of figuring out who's going to be the low am. I think I've cashed 3 of the last 4 years, I think. Justin Hastings is my pick this year. Senior at San Diego State. He's on the verge of breaking numerous school records at San Diego State, held by my guy, Xander Schauffele, and T8, T2 in the 2 college events so far this season. So Justin Hastings, I don't know what his odds are yet, but I love betting the low am at the Masters. He's my pick.
Love that. Love the Joaquin Niemann call out. Shop around for that as well. I'm seeing 30 to 1. So you could get some value there if you do shop around. He wears 2 gloves on the course, but follow iMac on X at Iain MacBets, and make sure you subscribe to the Bacon Bets podcast. iMac, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you, my friend. Enjoy the Masters. Good luck.